Okay, so I guess it's time to start. So I have this little sheet thing that I found on my phone that I forgot I saved a while ago. And it kind of just helps pull out what your character's disposition is. So there's 4 different words: deceptive, ambitious, genuine, truthful. It goes from one extreme to the other extreme. And the first one we're going to do is Merlin. Yesterday I talked about the series Breaking the Fourth Wall. So today I'm going to talk about my characters individually in the series and what they represent with each chapter that I do. See, I got Merlin, a lot of blues, so I'm going to do a dark blue for her. And we'll go ahead and talk about these different characteristics first. I'll pull up a image of just Merlin, and I'll talk about her in the story. Here's the profile I made for her in Breaking the Fourth Wall. Her full name is Merlin Rose, no middle name. She's a professional writer, and as of this year, she is 26 years old. 3 years ago, I actually made this series, and I've kind of just progressed their ages from the time frame where I started to now. 3 years ago, she was 26 years old. Her birthday is August 21st. She is a fall baby, and no, wait, that's still part of summer. She's a summer baby still, though she doesn't act like it, and her favorite season actually is winter. She works for the publishing company that in the series is B&G's Publishing, and it's just the B&G stands for the owners who created the company in the first place. She's actually one of the characters that actually likes to write about her BL and GL fantasies, and they tend to get pretty high on her writing as well. And currently her biggest series that she's been publishing is Branded. And that's just the small of it. Let's go into some of her personality traits. She's not necessarily deceptive, but she is ambiguous. I would say she goes about that far. Maybe I should put it. She goes about that far in ambiguous, maybe just a little more. She's not quite genuine or truthful in the matter, and that atones for her past as well. Impulsive, unpredictable, deliberate, and tentative. She is actually more deliberate on what she does. We'll put that one there. So she's ambiguous and deliberate. And she's very much domineering. Seems like she's getting a lot of negative in some of these traits. But wait till you get to my character that's kind of based off me, so I get to see what I am like when I'm thinking about my character. And this is actually really fun. I can post a link to this through any site. A link to this picture, and you can do it for your own characters or characters you're building for a series that you want to produce, or anything really. She's not self-deprecating. She is fairly humble, but she kind of goes towards being a proud kind of person. Yay, buttons on my computer screen. Not screen, my tablet. I press the wrong buttons and I get more things that I don't really want. Oh, that's what happened. Never mind. She's not timid, she's not shy, but she's not outgoing either. She just doesn't speak. This one kind of makes it hard to think, so I think I'll come back to that one. She's not stingy. She is a bit selfish. And actually, we'll not say a bit, she's really selfish. Neglectful, lazy, diligent, unrelenting. You know, she's very close to unrelenting. Alright, that was unexpected. So shall we go back to this? Let's see, I don't know why I have it on both of these. Anyway, she's very unrelenting in her thought process. Silly, relaxed, proper, uptight. She's not silly and she's not relaxed. She's very much uptight. Cowardly, prudent, brave, reckless. Honestly, she's cowardly. Yeah, she's cowardly. Mean, insolent, respectful, different. You know, some of these words I actually don't know, so I'll look them up. Okay, now we can do this. Different. She is more insolent than deferent. Though it was nice to know what deferent means. It's respectful, humble, dutiful, obedient, submissive, meek, subservient, yielding. All of those words. Belligerent, contentious, agreeable, submissive. She's not submissive. She's about here, I would say. I might find another one of these things and put it on here to work with as well for these characters. Apathetic, laid back, conscientious, and fastidious. Wow, words don't work for me. Fastidious. Apathetic. She is brash. Yeah, I did not actually know what brash meant, so I had to look it up. And there you go. There's Merlin in a nutshell. Every character will be different for this series. Trust me. In fact, I have a couple characters that will definitely be meek, timid, neglectful, cowardly, submissive. I have quite a few characters that are actually like that. You know, I might actually look for another one of these before we go on to drawing the character. And then we have a couple to work from. I'm just going to Google doing a character trait chart. Cart and chart apparently sound the same. I want images. Let's see if anything is specific. What do you have? Oh, it's a lesson plan template. There are a lot of different charts on here for different books. Good for teachers, that's for sure. That's homework. I used to have quite a bit of character stuff that were perfect for writing and drawing characters. And I went through and had specifically looked up things for characters to get more in depth with my characters and stuff. But throughout the years, you kind of lose stuff, especially if it's on your phone. And this particular chart happened to be on my phone. And at one point, I lost a lot of pictures that I had. So no more. I really would like to have something that would be picture perfect for showing a character's moral ideas and stuff. But maybe I'm typing in things wrong. Here's a character analysis one, but not quite what I'm looking for. I might have to look elsewhere. I don't need to buy that. Oh, this actually works pretty well. It's not really what I was looking for, because I was looking for a chart, but these might actually be very helpful. They'll just be a good guideline to look at while I'm drawing the character out. Shall we go off of that? Ew, that's a lot. Okay. Let's go ahead and start. Oops. Okay. Oops. I'm going to the wrong place now. Alright, let's go ahead and start drawing the character. I'll be going back and forth between the papers so I can remember what I want to say about the character and such. I believe I made Merlin to be the same age as myself. Did I? No. Yes. I did make Merlin to be the same age as myself. So basically, her birthday is August 21st. I just now realized that my birthday is April 21st, and I made her August 21st. Things you just notice. Anyway, so Merlin is just a couple months younger than myself, but we're about the same age. Or did I make it? I think my initial intention was that she was born... No, I really don't remember what my initial intention is. We're the same age. Give or take a couple months, but we're the same age. Let's see. Character's full name I've given is Merlin Rose. So her brother, who actually is older than her, is Morgan Rose. He's older than her by a couple years. And does have trouble getting her to do her work properly. But because she is also the youngest to have entered into the company doesn't want to lose her for the fact that her series garnered quite a bit of money. And if anything does occur, she'll just be sent to another editor. And that just keeps going on how it has been. She initially started out with a different editor because the company didn't want siblings working together. But her brother had a higher chance of getting her to do her work. At some point, she stopped wanting to do her work with the other editor that she had. And so things kind of just went downhill from there with how things were set up. There's no true meaning as to why I called her Merlin, except for as a foil to Arthur. And I kind of just wanted to give them more masculine names, because I really did think it would be funny. So she's basically based off the wizard Merlin from Arthur and the Round Table, Sword in the Stone, so on and so forth. And I gave her Rose as the last name for a more feminine trait to her. Because despite having a masculine name and acting more tough, she honestly is probably one of the more feminine of the whole series. She has no nickname. Her birthday is August 21st, and her sign is... What is her sign? I forgot what the signs are for all the months. I got my daily horoscope up. I think it's Leo for August, but I can't remember from the top of my head. October is available. Yeah, she's actually on the cusp too. 8/22 is actually on the cusp, so she's got Leo and some Virgo traits too. I can read the characteristics for it. Let's see, Leo. We'll see if I actually have it accurate as to how her personality is. As one of the most creative and ambitious signs, she's a light novel author. Leo has plenty to roar about. The lion's considerable talents help them to succeed in nearly any endeavor they set their minds to. Leos love to be the center of attention, and they often are because they are so enthusiastic, courageous, loyal, and generous. I think I lost some of it there, but I haven't really explored her personality completely in the series. And so she actually holds a lot of these traits. She is loyal. And she does have a lot of courage. Don't know if I've gotten her generosity yet. And she's not as enthusiastic about her last book in her series. Because the lion is the king of the jungle animals, Leos often think of themselves as the king or queen of the universe. But they need to learn to tame their pride and be less concerned about appearances. Leos love to give without asking first. That's because they always assume their gift is truly needed. As a natural-born leader, Leo can become a great inspiration for others. I hit her personality completely on the head. I hit the nail on the head for this one. We'll see if I've done that with all the other characters. But I find that extremely funny about this one. Because I have her assume quite a leading role. She is a leader of the group. The entire cast. Which includes me. On a side note, my character is a Taurus. How do Taurus and Leos get along? We'll see. Yep. I was kind of right. Merlin and I are a challenging combination. Meaning it's tough. And that is so true. It's kind of fun to see what characters stack up between each other. Age is 26. Let's see. Merlin's whole color scheme is based off blues and grays, like I said before. And she wears glasses. She doesn't necessarily care about contacts because appearance isn't her number one priority on any occasion. This time I actually will be coloring my characters around, and I'll do an actual perfected line art. On another note, I use mostly my pencil tool for all my lines and sketching. I can't control my pen very well, so my line art comes out a little bit worse than I would like in pen, so I've kind of stuck to pencil. And you know what? Pencil works. I like to use black as my main color for my inking. But I also like to change the line color if it doesn't look like it's working well with the image that I'm working with. Merlin has boxy kind of hair. I used to not like drawing boxy kind of hair, but once I figured out how to actually make it work as hair, I do prefer that a lot of times. Merlin has square glasses. She would actually have clear contacts if she decided to wear contacts, so she'd basically have the same colored eyes. I know some people prefer different colors for their contacts. I myself would probably No, actually, I wouldn't want anything in my eyes. I have trouble putting eye drops in. Let's see, what else? Merlin's hair is very thick. And so she keeps it short because it's thick. She could go in for a trim and it would take an hour just to get the trim done because of how thick her hair actually is. And that is actually speaking on personal experience, because my hair is thick too. And so Merlin wouldn't want to have long hair, not very often anyways. She did have long hair as a teenager and a child, but once she entered into the working world, she decided that it would be easier to take care of shorter hair. I'll probably have her grow her hair out every once in a while in the series, because I would love to draw her hair in a ponytail more often. And yes, she would be in a ponytail. She wears a lot of vests. In her fall attire, she will be wearing a vest, a thicker vest than what she wears in the summer. And I'll probably have a different variation of her colors too. She probably won't be wearing a lot of grays for the fall and winter sections. And they'd probably be more geared towards a seasonal color. So no more shorts. Her shorts are kind of hard to draw anyways. Maybe because I'm not very good at drawing shorts. Though right now they're not coming out too bad. Height, weight, type, body, nationality. Okay. You know, I've never really thought about the height of my characters. I'd say Merlin's probably my tallest character in the entire thing. No, that's wrong. Jerry is my tallest character. Never mind. I did make a fairly tall male character. Actually, a couple of my male characters are fairly tall. I would say Merlin is about 5'7", 8 inches in comparison to some of my other characters. And actually, her brother is taller than her, equaling up to 6 feet. And her weight, I never really thought about either. Then again, I don't think about my weight, so why would I think about my character's weights? And I can't give you a guesstimation on that one. And I probably don't want to give you an estimation on that one, because I don't really want to think about how heavy my characters are, if that makes any sense. And yes, I am going from a list. You can tell her skin tone from its original picture here is Caucasian. Lots to think about for a character. And I actually do think a lot onto my character. Some physical traits I tend to forget and slip out of my mind instead of thinking about them. And it's probably because appearance doesn't really matter to me. It's personality that really gets me thinking. And that's in real life too. I don't really care what you look like, as long as you're a good person. If you happen to be a bad person, then I will not like you. Aside from having a PTSD and giving herself insomnia because of it, she doesn't really have many disabilities. She works hard to do her series, and a lot of her stories come out from her own personal experiences. Not that she was ever a slave. That's basically what her series Branded is about. But a lot of those feelings that come up in her series are things that she deals with on her everyday life. It's like any kind of author. I can't really say any kind of author, but a lot of authors do use their own personal experiences in order to write a well-rounded story. And PTSD can be an assortment of feelings that arise because of those experiences that someone has in their past, such as loud sounds can harm veterans because of being out on the battlefield. They get a lot of PTSD because any kind of sound can trigger those memories. It's the same thing. Any kind of resemblance to a past experience can cause a disorder and stress the said person out. For Merlin, it has a lot to do with her past and her past and her father. A lot of her feelings that come up are actually were given to her because of an experience that she had with her father. It's more on spoiler territory when I talk about that one, so I won't speak about that one, and I can elaborate later when I do have it posted into the series. By the way, check out Breaking the Fourth Wall on Line Webtoon, and even if you don't feel like reading my series, there's a bunch of really good series on Line Webtoon, both featured and Discover. You can find a lot of really great series. And I think I have a link to my particular series in my bottom lower part of my channel. I've got DeviantArt webcomic, which takes you to one of my webcomics, and then I have my Patreon on there. But if you go to my webcomic, you'll see my series, but then you can click out of it and check out other series. The series it'll take you to is my series Discord, and if you click my name, if you're on an online server, you can see all the series I've posted, which I will talk about all my series at some point. And this one is called Breaking the Fourth Wall, which is basically a slice of life about a group of people living in the comic world. So check it out, or anyone else's. I can recommend more series as well. In fact, I might just do that one day, draw a bunch of different characters from all the different series I've watched and read every day when they come out. There's a lot of really talented authors in Webtoon. Anyway, getting back on track. What was I talking about? I believe I was talking about Merlin's PTSD, and it all stems from her past with her father. But I won't talk about any of that since it's basically spoiler. Sorry. Don't mind me, hands are not my forte. I am getting better at them, but you could ask any artist. Hands are not their favorite part until they actually get to knowing how to do it. And even then, hand placements are tough. But I'll say I'm actually starting to get the hang of it. Not that it is the greatest thing in the world, as you can see. Feet are another one I'm pretty bad at. So anytime I try really hard to have socks on or shoes. I don't think I've ever done actual feet. No, I've done it a couple times. So until I get better at those probably won't be pictures I draw. Anyway, physical abilities. What is my character good at? Writing stories. She actually likes to walk every day. She's a character that actually will walk every day, especially in the early mornings when the sun is rising and the day is just about to start, and after a deadline has been met, she'll just walk. And it's her favorite time of day because it's the only time when she can be alone with her thoughts and not be bombarded by thoughts she doesn't want to think about. She just embraces the peaceful morning. And that's been something she's been doing since she was a kid. Waking up early and going out for a walk before going to school. I wish I was more diligent about that. Walking is actually one of my favorite activities as well. Which is probably where I have Merlin doing that one, because a lot of my characters have pieces of me, whether I think about it or not. So that's basically the gist of the characters in a nutshell. But a lot of your characters end up being that way, whether you think about it or not. She also hates sports. And it's not that she hates sports per se, she hates the competitive aspect of sports and how everyone gets so mad if a team isn't doing so well. And it's their favorite team and they just get mad about all these different things. She likes sports, just not the sports that are played by everybody else. She'll watch tennis because it's an interesting sport that's only a single kind of player. And, well, I guess there's a lot of people who get angry about any kind of sport. But she'll watch that one in specific. And I think that's the only thing she'll actually watch. So don't ever ask her about her favorite football team. She'll glare at you, call you some obscene name, and then walk away. And that's Merlin in a nutshell. Merlin's favorite color is yellow. Yeah, surprise, considering her whole attire is blue or gray. But her favorite color is yellow. She likes the brightness from it, and it kind of gives her a warm feeling. Something that she associates with a happy day. She does not like rainy days. They are her least favorite days in any season. She doesn't mind snow, but she really hates rainy days. Music. She's into classical. It's the music she goes to when she is taking care of her deadline or writing her next volume for for any of her series. And so she just listens to classical music. Sometimes she listens to Celtic music too. So she's the big nerdy classical type of character. She has tried other kinds of music. And they're not necessarily things that she'll listen to on a daily basis, but she'll listen to some currently running music. But they take away from her concentration. And so she doesn't listen to them while she's working. Food literature. What does Merlin like to eat? That one I never thought about. I guess food's not on my list of priorities to think about for characters either. Let's see. Well, it's not per se food, but she likes to drink a lot of tea while she's working on her work, while she's working in general. There I go again. She can't pick a favorite literature. She likes everything about it. It's the same thing with book. She doesn't have a favorite book because she reads all the time. On her downtime, while she's looking for something new to work with as a technique, she's just working on all of it all the time, and there's just not a particularly favorite. She can tell you her least favorite, which happens to be To Kill a Mockingbird. It's just not one of her favorite writings. She doesn't really read teenage fiction, so none of those are kind of counted in that one. She has read quite a bit of classical literature, and To Kill a Mockingbird, despite being classical, is definitely not something she'll read ever again. Had to read it once. And it probably comes down to, what did she have to read while she was in school? I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't like some of the books that they were forced to read. I remember reading some really sad stories from my literature class. No, I don't think I'd want to read them again. Of Mice and Men, yeah. That one was the one book I read and don't ever want to read again. I cried. been giving a lot of my characters like a single color for whatever extra clothing that they have. Like here, Merlin is filled with blues, grays, her pants are a purple, but her glasses are the only thing that stand out on her. They kind of represent the same idea that yin and yang do. I feel like that's too dark, despite it coming from the page that I got it from. But it's basically, despite having all these other traits that kind of make her on the cold side of things, she still holds a piece of what would the word be? I can't think of it. She still has that excitability? No, that's not the word I want to use. She's cold on the under normal circumstances, but she still has passion. There we go. And so the red represents that she still has passion within herself, despite being this enigma and cold kind of person. See, I put a lot of thought into my characters. All my characters have a thought process. And I do it on purpose because I think deep down everyone has something that they carry with them, and it makes them unique to themselves, and it helps others to understand that there are things that we don't like about a person. And you're entitled to have that feeling between a person, but you can't let that rule over the other person. Merlin's creative and cool, but still has that fiery passion within herself to keep going, to not stop and just keep going. It's a drive. And that's probably why I designed Merlin to be the way that she is, and why I like her so much, is that despite all the things about her, she kind of just takes things in stride and is fairly chill. I'm still not that thrilled with the design I gave her, just on the account of a few other things, and I keep forgetting that I need to fill in holes. What kind of habits does she have? I do know what kind of habits she has. Her habit attunes to her hobby, and her hobby is writing books about girls' love and boys' love. She is a fujoshi, for the lack of a better term. And she has gotten into a little bit of trouble in the past by doing this. She kind of paired up people around her in her class, and it caused a little bit of problems down the road. I don't feel like getting into too much about that because that doesn't really account for what goes on in the series. But she has gotten in trouble for her insinuating hobby. And thus she doesn't really talk to people about it. But she does have a club that she goes to where there are people with like minds. And they sometimes talk about their favorite pairings and their favorite series. Sometimes they bring in an extra person to join them. And then they just basically talk about their hobbies. In fact, I would like to have a place to go to and talk about my hobbies. That is the best thing about this series, is I can do whatever I want. And one of them is creating a club for characters to go to, any kind of club, whether it be about magic or about video games or about literature. They all have characters around that they can go to and talk to. Which, in real life, it's hard to do so. Maybe that's why I started doing this, so I can talk about my favorite things in the world. Characters, manga, anime, anything. But yeah, her worst habit is pairing up people, and it only got her in trouble when she was in junior high and high school, because nobody likes being paired up with another person forcefully, and it caused a lot of fights, if you can think about that one. Hometown type of childhood, first memory. I won't talk too much about her complete background, but there are things that probably won't come up in the series, and this is a perfect time to talk about it. Merlin is an asexual and aromantic, really and truly. She doesn't really care to have a relationship with most people, but if she were to be in a relationship, she'd be the romantic kind. She romanticizes a lot of things, which attunes to her ability to tell stories. And so a lot of it is an influence thing. She can easily influence the relationships around her. And she's never really gotten close to anyone. Her brother is the only person that she's been close to since a lot of things that happened in her past. And she's chosen to just be celibate for her entire life so that she doesn't get hurt and other people won't get hurt. Knowing that she can't get past a certain point in her life because of these events, she's decided to just ignore anyone who wants to have a relationship with her, whether it be romantic or not, or platonic. So she's probably one of the more sadder characters, considering she doesn't want any kind of relationship, whether it be friendship or not. And yes, I've depicted her with Arthur in a lot of different situations, but they aren't really in romantic relationships. I just felt like drawing those pictures the way that I did. Her first memory in her life that she's ever had was a really peaceful and happy one, to be honest. It was one of the few times that her whole family was together and nothing bad was happening. A lot of times that her childhood was filled with lots of moving around, not knowing why they had to move so much. Her mother getting sick. Just nothing happy. But one particular memory was a trip to a park with her whole family, her mother on a really good day, everyone happy and smiling. I guess this isn't her first memory, but it's really her favorite memory. And it's a really peaceful one. She got ice cream, well, all of them did, and she would force her brother to give her a bite of his ice cream. And it just felt like time had stopped for them. Like nothing bad was happening. That no one was going to get hurt. And they were just ignorant to the whole world. A family outing, family picnic. Mom had made food. She helped. Her brother helped with it too. And everything just seemed like it was all right in the world. Granted, sometimes I guess anyone could have those kind of days, and they would be the best kind of days that anyone could have. But sometimes when Merlin thinks about that day, it tends to hurt her a lot more, because those kind of days can't ever happen again. But still, it is one of her favorite memories. Let's see. Thinking about Merlin's greatest fear. Her greatest fear is losing another person to any kind of thing. She stays away from people so that she doesn't feel that again. She felt it with her mother. She felt it with her father. She keeps her brother at bay. Those are things that she has to grow away from in order to have a proper relationship with anyone. And it scares her, thinking that even if she gets into a relationship, there's always that chance that they will disappear in one way or another. I mean, her father is currently jailed for reasons of the past. But those will be brought to light in the series, so I won't go and elaborate on what happened in her past with him. But yeah, that's her greatest fear, is just losing more people. Everyone has to come to terms one day about the fact that death is inevitable, and that not everyone will stay in a person's life for ever. You might be lucky to have someone that will stay in your life till death. But those are things you have to think about in real world situations. Life is not simple. It's far more complicated. Even when you write a series, these characters are more complex and complicated. when you get down to thinking about it. That's why I like writing about these kind of things, and why I make characters with so much turmoil, because they represent people. Whether they are real or made up, they still are people down to the core. They are characters who have a past and a present and a future. And you give yourself all these thoughts and know what kind of characters they are and what drives them. Let's talk about something a little more happier, since that got a little bit darker than probably needed. I need to put it as app. Merlin actually is, despite how cold she acts towards Arthur or anyone in the series, she actually is most at ease when she's listening to the whole group talking about things or making plans with each other. It kind of reminds her of being wanted and needed in the world. She pushes people purposely away, but a lot of these characters push right back, trying to get her and get into her life. And so she's at ease just listening to their conversations. No one's fighting about anything. No one's pushing back. She's not pushing them away. She can just sit there reading her books. I guess you really can call her a Sundri, which she has been called a Sundri. She may say one thing, but she definitely doesn't mean it. I might change this color a little bit. I'm gonna go a little darker. Okay, maybe just a tad bit darker, because that was just a little more. Okay, that's a little bit better. But she is at ease when she is with everyone. She's not necessarily at ease when she's with her brother, because they kind of fight over her next manuscript. But she kind of enjoys that kind of relationship with him anyways, and he doesn't mind that relationship with her. It's their bonding that they do. And he is quite happy to see that she's actually becoming more open with people and happy, unlike what she has been over the past 10 years of her life. Let's see. Her priority is... What is her priority? Yeah, these questions really get you thinking about your characters. And there are some that I can easily answer, and then there are some I just haven't thought about. Her priority isn't necessarily her books. That's her income. And she'll do it. But it's not necessarily her top priority. Her top priority. Top priority. Top priority. I guess just living is her priority. And I guess that's anyone's priority. But when I mean living, it's just that she wants to keep going. There's not a day that goes by that she doesn't think about her past and the things that have happened in it, but she doesn't let those things hold her down. She lives with purpose. She lives to make sure that all those memories keep living with her. And that's why her priority is to live. She'll do whatever it takes to keep living. And a lot of her stories are her will and drive and hope that everyone will still remember her and those things that she wrote. Because a lot of her writing comes from her past experiences. Her first ever book that she published was based off of her mother. And she wants to keep writing so that her work can be remembered in any incarnation. So that that particular writing will continue to remind people that there was someone living that supported her and kept her mind from deteriorating. It's already becoming winter where I live. It's cold. Philosophy. Honestly, her philosophy is probably the funniest in terms of why she thinks this way. She prefers to live life the way that she wants to live it. And she honestly doesn't care what happens to anyone else. And her philosophy is, if you don't live your life, I'm not going to live it for you. And that goes towards anyone. She lives her life the way that she feels like living it, and doesn't care how another person's life is lived. She will not listen to other people complaining about how this person is living or that this person needs help. She is only there for herself. In fact, she doesn't really care how her neighbors live either. As long as it doesn't affect her, she stays out of it. Now, sometimes it affects her because she lives with Arthur. And that can be sometimes an odd relationship between the two of them. Distress being caused because of one person's decision. And you don't get to see a lot of that sometimes because it's hard to make episodes out of every little aspect of their lives. But it does happen. She chose not to live with her brother because she didn't want to have any means to deal with another person. She ended up living with Arthur because somehow Arthur persuaded her so much that in the end she had no choice but to agree. But even so, she still ignores 60% of what Arthur does. So she is out there for herself. She's never once thought of herself as something less than what she is. She's one of the few characters that lives life without feeling bad about herself, about her circumstances. In fact, she thinks quite highly of herself, which is probably why I have her as humble. She's not conceited about herself. She knows her limits, and she won't say anything otherwise. It's good to know yourself pretty well, but it's bad to be conceited about yourself. And she knows the fine line between being overly about herself, because there are things she knows herself that she can do better. That's why she strives to improve herself, walking, her stories. The major thing about her last volume for the series is that she doesn't want to let her fans down by giving something that's not perfected as an ending. Because an ending is an important piece of what you make. At least that's what she believes about it. That it's the beginning and the ending that people will remember. Let's see. Merlin doesn't have very many embarrassing past moments, but there are a couple things that she'd be embarrassed for anyone to know about. One of the most embarrassing things that she would never want getting out is that in school, in her elementary school, she actually had to take writing lessons. She was never a very good writer and had a lot of tutoring in order to perfect herself. And she finds that embarrassing because she's a writer for a profession. If people found out, she feels that they would discredit her for all the achievements she's gotten throughout the years of being a professional. And truth be told, anyone has that kind of thing in the past. It's just some people are able to deal with it versus some people are not. And Merlin is one of those people that was not able to deal with it, and so kind of hides the fact that she wasn't a very good writer when she was growing up. And wants it to stay that way. In fact, she's actually blackmailed her brother into not saying a word about it to anyone, even as an author's note. Nothing whatsoever. She refuses to acknowledge the fact that she had to have tutors while she was growing up because writing wasn't her best. honestly doesn't have a wish she'd want fulfilled. If she was given a chance to have a wish granted, she wouldn't use it. And that attunes to how she feels about those kind of things in the first place. She believes that regardless on what you wish for, it still won't change anything. She uses all her power to get where she is and strives to continue going forward. Even if she could bring her mother back from the illness that she had, it wouldn't change anything. Her mother would have still died of something, and she just leaves it at that. There's nothing in the world that she'd wish for. Not to say that the people around her are often dreamers and would actually wish for something, but herself, no. She wouldn't wish for anything. 'Cause wishing is nothing but a bad stack of karma. Even if her mother wasn't the one that passed away. And even if she did wish for her mother to return, either her mother would still die of something or another family would lose their parent. It's just a stack of karma that she knows would not help anything. And so she continues her life knowing that despite everything, she'll be all right. She just doesn't feel like she can get close to people. For Merlin, she is one of my deepest characters, and she has a lot of strength to her. She is able to confront people and is quite strong in any kind of respect. I'm just gonna give up on that. Her biggest strength is kind of hard to pick out which one is her biggest strength. She has been able to get past quite a bit of her past, despite not being able to get close to people out of her own fear. She had to deal with a lot of things. Her brother had to deal with a lot of things too. But she was even stronger than what her brother was able to accomplish. Merlin's greatest weakness in her personality is a little bit harder to pick out as well, on the account of you can't really count some of the character traits that she has as a weakness. I guess not trusting people, or continuously feeling like all the people that she meets will probably disappear one day, so there's no need to be close to them. But that's not quite a weakness. I guess not being able to I guess her biggest weakness is trying to perfect something and making sure everybody will like it as something that she doesn't have to continuously try to work on and continuously get in trouble for. Because that's what she's doing with her light novel series. She's on the very last book, but is unable to finish it because she doesn't want to end it so that the fans are unhappy with it. She wants it to be perfect, and that's something that can't happen. There's always going to be something wrong. There's no need to perfect something. You just work with what you've got. And I guess that's a little bit of advice to everybody too. Because everybody gets that way. They want something to be so perfect and are afraid of rejection, of people hating what you've created. And there's where a little bit of fear can reside. And it's not really a weakness, but being able to let go of those thoughts and breaking free from your own shell and doing something that you've never done before, or you're just afraid that everybody's gonna hate how something ends. I mean, look at some of the big name series. Not everybody was happy with how some series ended, like Bleach. That's a pretty big title that ended and a lot of people got backlash from. And it's just that people didn't look into the story behind why it ended the way it did. Or Fairy Tail. A lot of people got mad about Fairy Tail's ending. It's just that if an author is afraid to release that last bit because they don't know how it's going to affect everybody else, then there just never will be an ending. And so that's her biggest weakness. It's thinking that everybody will be unhappy with how it ends and not giving it a chance. And that's to everyone else out there too, which I think I've repeated that a couple times. But don't sell yourself short. There will be people who hate something. There will be people who like something. It's all about taste and what people want to see. Here's something fun to talk about. My characters fight against a 7 deadly sin. Yeah, a lot of my characters fight some of these things. Even I fight it too. And actually everybody fights it. So it's quite fun to think about though. Merlin, I would say... that she probably fights against pride. She is an extremely prideful character. Granted, she doesn't fight with it as often because her last book not being published because she doesn't think it'll come out the way that she wants it to. But her pride also gets in the way with that. Because she wants it perfect, her pride is unable to let go of that last volume of hers. Oops, that was a little too much. But yeah, pride. She fights with pride. There's a couple other sins that she probably fights with. No, just pride. Here's some fun traits. Merlin is a pessimist. She only sees the bad in things. It's not to an extreme extent, but it's still there. She still houses quite a bit of doubt in people and herself when it comes to certain things. Not necessarily her writing, because that's where her pride kicks in. She is very prideful of her writing, and she knows that she does a really well job enough to say that they can't lose her at her company, or are unwilling to lose her at their company. But she is a pessimist on more accounts than none. She just can't see the good in some stuff, like people in general. Eventually everyone will die, and that's something everyone has to deal with, but it goes to a beyond extent with Merlin. She knows that people will die eventually, and she gives into the thought that there's no point in knowing these people. I shouldn't get close to them. She's a pessimist. She is in between an extrovert and an introvert. And that actually exists. In fact, I took a test and that's exactly where I fit. I'm in between extrovert and introvert. I've got characteristics of being an extrovert, and I've also got characteristics of being an introvert. And that's the same with Merlin. Merlin can fit in either category. She is fine going out in public and speaking. She doesn't like speaking at the conventions where her book signings are, and that's a whole different ballgame. Her brother usually is the one who puts these things together and forces her to go, and she absolutely hates it. Because her brother decides that he wanted to do it and didn't ask her for it in the first place. But she doesn't mind signing for the people. It's more of a brother-sister thing in that respect. But she does prefer to stay home a lot of times too, because she prefers to write her stories and do that. She'll go out, like she's willingly to go to the beach with everyone. They have a beach trip planned towards the end of season 1, part 1. And so she's out there in the sun, happily enjoying it, like everybody else. I guess I've been talking quite a bit about her traits all over the place. Here's a hard one that would be for anyone. One word to describe yourself, and that's towards the character. What would Merlin describe herself as? Strong-willed is what she would describe herself as. She knows that she is extremely strong-willed and isn't afraid to show it. And it shows through her writing too. She works hard on all of the things that she's done and accomplished. Merlin isn't a very big person on appearance. She doesn't really care what she looks like or anything about that. Her appearance is not her number one priority. But, and given the chance to talk about it, the one trait that she really likes about herself is her eyes. Blue eyes are something that a lot of people like in general, but she really likes her blue eyes. They kind of remind her of her mother, who also had blue eyes. And she doesn't really consider much wrong with her. I guess she doesn't like the fact that she has to wear glasses, but she refuses to wear contacts. In a lot of thoughts on that one. She doesn't like to wear contacts because it means putting in the contact in her eye, and she doesn't want to do that every morning. Which is understandable, because not everybody enjoys doing that either. Because it hurts, and then there's a chance that the contact will dislodge itself, and she just doesn't want to have to deal with any of that. So she refuses to wear contacts, but her glasses are bulky and they don't feel nice on her face. And laser eye surgery, she doesn't really want to do that one either. She's more or less not wanting to put herself into pain just to fix something about herself. I guess I'll do a couple more things about her, and then that will end the stream for the day. Okay, that might be interesting. So, Merlin thinks a great deal about herself, but not to an extent of pure pride and conceited. But she's no stranger to admiration. There are people that she admires and thinks of them as really strong characters. Despite how she feels, she actually admires Arthur a lot. And that's more apparent throughout the series as they do get closer. And it's because Arthur has something that Merlin does not. And vice versa, because Arthur admires Merlin quite a bit too. And I'll talk more about that tomorrow with Arthur's turn to shine. And I chose these two characters to be foils to each other because they each have something that the other does not. Their colors represent the foil of each other. Their personalities, everything about them is unique to that person. And the admiration of each other. But she admires Arthur because Arthur can honestly do quite a bit more than she feels like she can. Let's see. And Merlin never really had important people that she considered in her life, that she considered important in her life. Her brother was the only person that she let into her personal bubble because he was basically the same as her. And so when Arthur comes into her life, yeah, she doesn't really trust all those feelings between the two of them, or the fact that the two of them are so different. But they're not as different as Merlin really believes. Everyone has their own stories, and everyone has their own trials that they have to get past. Arthur and Merlin are no different from each other in that respect. And she begins to see everyone in a different light throughout the whole series, changing her opinion on people in the world in general. And so the two of them are really strong foils to each other because they honestly allow each other to change and grow as people. And I'll leave on one last thought. All my characters have traits that I find in myself. And that's just how things go when you write stories. But everyone is so different, and thinking about how each character perceives each of these thoughts really has gotten me thinking just how unique each character really is. And it's exciting to be able to talk about each of these characters. Ambiguous, deliberate, domineering, humble, brash, selfish, lazy. No, not lazy. She is unrelenting. There we go. She's not lazy. Uptight, cowardly, She's cowardly because she can't face her past the way she should. Insolent, contentious, and apathetic. There you go. There's Merlin. Thank you guys for joining me today. Let's talk more tomorrow.